Hello guys, welcome to my first PvP video. Today I'll showcase the team which got me to rank 1 in Roria Conquest. This team is a hazard stack balance built around choice specs Iron Valiant. The idea is that Specs Val is a strong breaker that is nearly unhaulable long term with hazard stack and knockoff support. Moonblast is one of the most spammable moves in the game. Focus Blast is a strong secondary stab, while Thunderbolt gives great complementary coverage that hits Toxapex, Molters, and Mega Charizard Y. Finally, Specs Vacuum Wave is a strong priority move that finishes off weakened sweepers and faster offensive Pokemon like Roaring Moon, Greninja, and Mega Lopunny. Iron Valiant is also relatively fast, which gives it many opportunities to fire off its strong attacks. Next up, I added Mega Tyranitar to provide the stealth rock and knockoff support that Val needs. It is the perfect offensive partner for Val because it can chip down and remove items from Pokemon like Toxapex, and can also pursue trap special walls like Galarian Slowking and Clodsire that switch into Val. Now that my starting core is finished, I added Gliscor as my third Pokemon. Gliscor can switch into most of the Pokemon that threaten Val and Mega T-Tar and keep momentum going with U-turn. It also provides hazard removal via Defect. After this, I added Ferrothorn as my fourth Pokemon. It provides important resistances to water, grass, and fairy, sets up spikes, and gives us another knockoff user. For my last two slots, I wanted to patch up some defensive holes in my team. Currently, I'm weak to Urshifu Rapid Strike, Mega Lopunny, and Swords Dance Iron Valiant. So I decided to add Toxapex as my fifth Pokemon. It deals with all the aforementioned Pokemon and dispenses status with Toxic and Scald, letting me wear annoying Pokemon down. Toxic plus Haze also lets me defeat most setup sweepers 1v1. Recover and Regenerator give Toxapex the longevity to stave off threats throughout the game. Finally, I wanted speed control for the team, so I added Choice Scarf Gholdengo as my last Pokemon. Gholdengo can outspeed opposing threats and revenge KO them. It also synergizes very well my hazard stack core, since its ghost typing blocks Rapid Spin and good as gold blocks Defect. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick team analysis. I put a ton of effort into this video, and I'll be releasing more such videos soon. So please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay tuned for more. So now, let's hop into the battles. The first battle is against Ghost. He's a great friend of mine, and I've battled him many times. I decided to lead with Pharaoh since it has a good matchup into T-Tar and Vikavolt, his two most likely leads. Worst possible use, but this is a relatively easy switch to Toxapex. A real-life orb. This will help you when I'm down into range of battle and gold. I also have to be careful about killing damage. Another Thunder Punch never KOs me from this range. After thinking, I decide to recover. This play covers for everything with making. If I can gradually weaken his team, mainly his very resistant Pokemon, then I am bound to put in a ton of work here. Gliscor here because it covers for both Sticky Web and Thunderbolt, the likely plays here. In this game, Vikavolt often used the battering ability instead of levitating, since battery got buffed to buff the possessor of the ability, so I decide to get chip damage with EQ. This chip damage will help me revenge KO Decom later in the battle or goal. They will now always be the drain for Roblox here. I can safely return to Gholdengo and put in a KO on Vikavolt. Here, I expected one of two things to happen. A switch to T-Tar as I locked myself into Shadow Ball to pursue me, or Thunderball. This covers both. This is fine. I switch to Toxapex here to scout the moveset in case of some uncommon option like Hidden Power Fire and it can heal gently. First loves his life for users. Here, I'm afraid of getting Dark Pulse first. I decide to go to T-Tar because it lives Dark Pulse with the Hydro Pump. KO's good at that, and it has a bad matchup to their team anyway. The Sand plus 4 chip points, not threatening massive damage here. In this game, Rock Climb got buffed to be a 100% accurate rock type move. It's reliable rock stat we've wanted for ages. After confirming that T-Tar takes a hit, I mega evolve and use rock. sand chip if they predict me. I decide to sack T-Tar here. If they punch, I get Stealth Rock up. Else T-Tar has already done enough. I can let it go down. Their fairy resist has gone Spike's moves is free. Kinda surprised me, but T-Tar killed after all. I just moved this again. In this game, Gholdengo got buffed with Heart Fairy typing Triangle. It threatens balance by already draining Kiss. It gives Gold a safe switch here. At this point in the match, Carmine and Gholdengo is their only win condition. They can boost enough to tank to make it rain, due to repeated speed attack drops. Trick permanently cripples Gholdengo, leaving no chance of it sweeping the later. This is a great position for us. We are forced to switch, since they are locked into Carmine. Shadow Ball over Focus Blast to guarantee damage in case I miss. No Focus could have been better, since it is more reliable in this game. That did solid damage. They will go down after 3 more attacks from Life Motion. I just go into the next here. I can just spam recover until it goes down to its own life. Even if they get a flinch, I can sack Gliscor instead. This is fine. I can just sack Gliscor and get him back in safety. Thank you, Gliscor. I can bring the iron back. I just clicked blue. This is a free gold switch. I go into Toxapex instead because it covers for a double switch to Incarnate and Scarf Gholdengo. Doesn't touch me. They forgot about the choice Scarf I tripped out to Gholdengo. Regardless, I get free chip now. take some time to think, but this is basically it. I see a win path here by positioning Iron Valiant in this endgame. By the way, guys, I'm still relatively new to editing. Sorry for not being able to speed up this part. I can simply go to Ferrothorn to tempt this thunderbolt. With 145 speed, attack, battery, and life orb, it will hit hard, and I can live above boss, so it's fine. Versus their last two. Ferro has been enough. I should sack it to get a free switch to Val. Thank you, Ferro. Sent packing. Honestly, this crit didn't change much. It just made the game run faster. So guys, that puts an end to game 1. Good game, and well played to Ghost. Our next battle is against Mosh. Let's see what they've got. They have a decent team, with what's likely to be a Specs or Scarf Latios, since they probably have Mega Mawvile. They are likely to lead with one of Ferrothorn, Great Tusk, or Latios. Val looks very strong offensively. Only Ferro takes a Moonblast well, and can be worn down, or just get Focus Blasted. My own Ferro also looks good here defensively. Tusk needs close combat, and Latios needs Mystical Fire to beat it. I decide to lead with Ferro. It has good matchups here overall, and can get up spikes. They lead with Mawvile, which is not what I was expecting, since it's usually an uncommon lead. I think that Fire Fang is a possibility here, but Swords Dance would be bad. Gliscor is my most expendable Pokemon here. I decide to switch it into Scout. good for me, but losing Gliscor isn't the end of the world. I can trade it for earthquake damage and click with Val after. Okay, never mind. They switch. I can deal with that problem later. This should be a safe switch to T-Tar, since its likely choice, and will never use Aura Sphere into a Gliscor. This is not what I saw coming at all, but Mega T-Tar lives boosted Aura Sphere, so I'm fine to stay in pursuit. It was life form, meaning it did have a chance to KO T-Tar with Sphere, but it didn't have it, and I KO back. T-Tar isn't very useful now. I'll take my knockoff chip for Valiant later and let it go down. Thank you, my goat. Their fighting resist is gone. Time to click Specs Focus Blast with Val, which, by the way, is 85% accuracy in this game. This is a dominant position for me. My defensive core is at full health, and both Scarf Gold and Specs Vacuum Wave Revenge KO a Flint to Greninja. The joke comes in, but there is nothing stopping me. That thing is fake bulk. It literally gets one shot. Looks like the real threat is the Iron Valiant I raised all along. Not surprised. My Pokemon their own Iron Valiant comes in, takes a million, and doesn't have booster energy. No Val set ever beats me from here. I'll scout the set with Toxapex. Based on that damage, they are also using a Specs Val, interesting, but they lack speed control. I claim my KO with Scald, but recover would have been better. I can sack Pex now so that I get a free switch into Iron Valiant. The Pex shall rest. Val shall avenge their comrade. just switch to Pharaoh. I have a guaranteed win path with Val and friends. Protean makes it a smaller threat than if it was Battle Bond. I simply leech Seed. Pharaoh Ziska on Karma Whips. I get that extra chip on Mauvile just in case. I always leech Seed here. After this, I have a guaranteed win with Gliscor EQ and Iron Valiant. Staying in with Pharaoh is always the play, since Valiant Focus Blast is a one-shot and enough chip damage means I don't need to risk and can just click T-Bolt. Gliscor lives a boosted Sucker Punch who KOs with Earthquake for the win. And that's game 2. Good game, and well played to Mosh. The final battle of this video is against iShowMotion, a top 10 player on the leaderboard and a good friend of mine. They have a solid rain team with buff Inteleon, Lantern, and what's likely an offensive Zapdos. Intel is very broken in this game and a threat to my team, with guaranteed crit specs Sniper, boosted Snipe Shot and Rain. It two-shots Pharaoh and Pex. Val and Gold are good here offensively. Val's stabs are good here with T-Bolt for Pelipper, and their lack of a Ghost Resist or Swift Swimmer means Scarf Shadow Ball can clean up in game. Gold also revenge KO's Intel after some chip. Pharaoh and Pex are crucial defensively. T-Tar contests weather and gets rocks but struggles here. I decide to lead Val since it has a solid matchup overall. No reason not to focus blast here. Blast no longer is a long-term switch in here. Pelipper comes in to get rain up. U-turn and Hurricane are likely here, with Intel in the back looking scary for me. If I go Pharaoh and take Hurricane, it will struggle taking hits from Intel and Zapdos later. they go Intel, I'll go Pharaoh since rain isn't up. Else it depends since my opponent takes their time here. Ocean-free water comes in. I'll actually try with rocks. The reason is that I have a Toxapex. It will always return here to keep momentum, and losing T-Tar isn't that bad for me. I think a bit more here than I move. I get it right and successfully get rocks up, which will help me a lot in the long run. They go back to elevator to get rain back up. I outspeed and get a KO or damage on something. This KO is huge. I think that Ishor expected his Pelipper to outspeed my T-Tar, but he lost his rain setter instead. Interior comes in. I'm forced to lose a Pokemon. I hope they nerf Interior here. It does more damage than Dragonish and got energy ball for most watery moves while being fast. I think a lot about Utusakyo for that idiot wizard. T-Tar already got rocks up, but can't take on Zapdos anymore. I can let it go. I finally make up my mind and decide to let T-Tar go down. Thank you, my dog. Now I can safely go far from it. At first, I was powered with the Intel, but changed my mind. A power whip this, if they stay in, would be catastrophic for me. I decide to get guaranteed damage and remove specs with. Knock off so Shadow all KOs it later. If they switch here, I cripple something by removing their item. This is perfect for me. I remove heavy-duty boots from Zapdos and confirm that it's offensive from the damage. I just leech seed here. Pharaoh being Ferrothorn. Weakening Zapdos regardless of if they boost or attack. A slow U-turn gives Iron Valiant a safe switch while putting Zap in range of Moonblast. This is a safe switch-in for Iron Valiant. Scarf Surging Strikes never fails Val for full HP. I get a safe switch into it. The situation may have changed, but the objective shall remain the same. Annoying, but doesn't matter much at this point. I can now get one layer of spikes up, so Interior doesn't shadow ball range next time it comes in. I go Gliscor, since it takes a hit, gets recovery, and gives me a safe switch into Val with U-turn afterward. U-turn into Iron Valiant guarantees me a kill. game and well played to eye show motion. So guys, that's it for this video. But before I end this, there are a few things you need to know. These battles have been recorded in the past, between February and late March, which is about the time I'm uploading this video. This is why my allo varies throughout the video. However, this outro was recorded on Sunday, 22 March, and is being edited on the same day. It is 6:23 p.m. as I'm adding the text in this section of the video. So this is my present allo being shown on screen, 1963, rank 1. The text showing up in the battles reflects my thought process at the time for when these battles were happening. This also helps explain my plays and why I made them. I'll be including my thought process for similar PvP videos in the future. Editing and adding my thought process as well as in-depth details took me a lot of effort and time. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to support my channel so I can consistently upload PvP content from the perspective of a top player of the scene with their thought process and reasons for each move. If you have any suggestions or feedback for me on how to improve my videos, drop them in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more. See ya next time.